Bretonnia is a faction with chivalrous knights, syphilitic peasants, and fair damsels, all with one thing in common: their fervent faith to the Lady of the Lake. Bretonnia will always be one of my favorite factions, as the first faction I ever played, picking up the 4th edition of Tabletop Starter Set so long ago. But with that being said, Bretonnia also has a very slim roster. If you think about it, you really only have access to mainly subpar infantry and varying levels of cav. That's the point. I mean, this is the bread and butter of Bretonnia, the shining knights of the realm who smack you with a gauntlet to issue a duel. What that also means is that each unit in their roster has a very specific niche, or at least they have very little overlap. So our video today is going to be focused on what 5 units are the worst in the Bretonnia roster. Again, this is rather hard, as everything in the army can at the very least get the job done. And there's a few things that we have to address before we dive in on our list. First, this list is aimed mainly at the competitive multiplayer scene. All these units can be buffed significantly, or conversely, they're quite strong in campaign, either through a Lord's Redline or specific researches. In addition, most if not all units are viable in campaign while you're learning the ropes, so don't look at this list and go, I can never touch these things. Second, this list is rather subjective and based off of anecdotal experience. A big shout out to Loxlon Soothsayer and Turin for letting me spitball with them on the order and matchups of some of these units. So your experience might have something like, I don't know, the Grail Knights on this list. I don't know why, or maybe you always win games when you take number 3 on this list. Who knows? That's the glory of Total War. Everyone has a different experience. But without further ado, let's do it for the lady and get into our list. Number 5 on our list, and the first of the worst, is the Mounted Yeoman. Now, this is the perpetual combat variant and not the range combat, or I'm sorry, not the range variant, or the Regiment Renown variant, both of which have a lot better of a place in the Bretonnian roster than the perpetual combat. I do think that, at 92 speed, these guys do have a lot of really great matchups. You can really use them well against dire wolves, any of those kind of very low armor, low threat skirmisher cav that are really meant to harass the backline. The Mounted Yeoman can counter very well. But if you just take 300 more points, I mean, they're already 500 points as they are. You can take Knights Errant, and Knights Errant have, I feel, a lot more jobs that they can do versus the perpetual combat variant of the Mounted Yeoman. In addition to that, they just don't really get as much value when you take a look at, say, the Regiment Renown version of the Mounted Yeoman. They have poison damage. Great. That means you can do a lot more, you can kite more, you can slow down some cav charges, you can screen things out a little bit better. These guys just don't really kind of stack up. Even when you're taking a look at other mounted variants of the same thing, they had Karin Horsemen, Dark Riders, Illyrian Reavers, anything like that, the Mounted Yeoman, again, just don't stack up for their point cost. When I'm looking at Dark Riders are 450 points, and they have better morale, better staying power, and they have murderous prowess. For 50 more points, I can take Dark Riders with shields, and I get access to silver shields, versus these guys having access to bronze shields at 500. So I think in the long run, they don't really make the most sense. But the reason that they're at number 5 on this list is they have more utility to more matchups than the rest of what we're about to talk about. And I think that even though the Mounted Yeomen are on this list, they don't quite match up to a lot of the other things. Number 4 is Gilles Le Breton himself, the Green Knight. Now, this is a bit of a cheater here. I'm not talking about a unit, and I really struggled to find something to fit the 4th role here. And I felt like the Green Knight is really worth talking about, right? He is a really amazing unit, the fact that he is a really good ethereal, kind of character sniping unit, and he's really great against an army that has low amount of magic damage. So if you take a look at maybe a line of vampire counts, or if you look at greenskins, they typically don't have access to a lot of wide sweeping magic damage, and this guy just really does the job. When you think about his overall physical resist, you're looking at someone who has a total of 75 physical resist, 55 from his innate ethereal, and 20 from the Blessing of the Lady. As his leadership drops, that will then, of course, drop as well. But there's some big problem with the Green Knight, and what is it? It's the fact that he has 2,200 points to be fully kitted out, 1,900 if he's just bare bones. And at that point, it's almost as much as, I'm sorry, that's more than a Dragon Ogre, a Moondragon and a Shaggoth, and that's huge, right? You get so much return with a Moondragon. You get amazing breath attacks. With the Shaggoth, you get some real big stomping and power, quite literally. But with the Green Knight, you just don't get that much oomph for the amount of point investment. By comparison, if you look at Celestia Direfin and her Damned Paladin, that thing's 900 and 1100 respectively, either kitted versus non-kitted. And sure, the Green Knight is 2 times as expensive, but is the Green Knight is it 2 times as effective as the damned Paladin? I don't really think so. Of course, though, this is not in the same army, but I'm trying to give a frame of reference here. In addition to that, even armies that are bad at fielding magic damage can still 1-2 punch the Green Knight. Take the Greenskins, for example. You can drop Effigy of Deget on him, and then Fist of Gork, and he's pretty much just KO'd right there. So there are a lot of ways that you can take out the Green Knight if you're an experienced player, and it is a little bit of a gimmick to use it in matches where, okay, I'm Bretonnia, I'm going against the Greenskins, I'm going to take a wild card in the Green Knight, and that's a huge point investment that just might not pan out for you at all. So I think he deserves a place on this list here, not because he's a terrible combatant, but because he can absolutely hamstring your army if completely countered. Number 3 on our list, halfway through, are the Battle Pilgrims. Now, in Total War Warhammer 1, these guys were an auto pick. You would take them alongside Foot Squires, depending on the army you were against. They were so effective. In Total War Warhammer 2, they've kind of lost their place. They are, for 600 points, you know, you're getting a unit that is, again, rather niche. They have a really good matchup against light kind of chaff infantry with not very intensive ranged firepower. You look at Skaven or certain portions of the vampire counts, these guys can do very well against them. But outside of that, you're just really not getting a huge amount of effectiveness. They do have Frenzy, which is great. They have Bronze Shields, which gives them a little bit more survivability. But at the same time, as soon as they drop below 50% leadership, they lose the benefits of Frenzy. And if their melee attack is already 32, that's 5 more than a Man-at-Arms. So with that Frenzy not there, they're really just not giving you as much return for a little more than 2 times the cost of a little less than 2 times the cost of a Man-at-Arms. So even if we take a look at the Regiment Renowned version, these guys over here are 800 points. So if I don't take them, I can take a unit of Foot Squires and a unit of Men-at-Arms and get a lot more use out of them for either both being tankier or overall just more effective at the cost point. I feel like Men-at-Arms just kind of outclass the Battle Pilgrims because the main staying ability of Bretonnia is not its infantry, it's in its cav. The infantry is just there to absorb some time so the cav can get in position. And I think that the Battle Pilgrims just don't do their job because any points you're spending on Battle Pilgrims, you're taking away from points you could be spending on Grail Guardians and other cav units that are more essential to the victory conditions of Bretonnia. Number 2 on our list is the Trebuchet, both the Blessed and the normal Trebuchet. Now this is the only artillery unit of Bretonnia, and it can really catch people off guard. They're really good against High Elves and Dark Elves, which will more often than not stock halberds against you when they see that you're going to be choosing Bretonnia. You'll see Phoenix Guard or Blackguard of Nagaron, and this is a really great unit to kind of catch them off guard and do a significant amount of damage to them. But the big thing here is they're not very cost effective for what they are. The big thing here is that you're going to be investing a lot in the trebuchets themselves, then you're also going to invest more to protect those trebuchets. So if you look at the cost of Spearmen, which I believe is 250 points, and you look at the cost of 2 Blessed trebuchets, which is 850 a piece, in total, you're going to want 2 Spearmen to protect them. That's 2,200 points. That's 5 or 6% of your total funds in competitive multiplayer. It's just not that great for an artillery piece that has low accuracy, and the base field trebuchet does pretty much average damage. Almost every single catapult does anywhere from like 169 to 175 damage. The Blessed trebuchet is really the only way to go because you get 61 more damage for 200 more points. So you're really off. You're better off anyway going with the Blessed one. But with that being said, you can get 2 archers for the cost of 1 Blessed Field Trebuchet, and you get more mobility, you get the ability to kind of pivot, and you don't need to protect them far in the back of your line. Bretonnia is going to be marching up, or at least using its cavalry to sweep around, so you don't want to be investing so much in your backline that you have to worry about it the entire game. If you have reserve troops, or if you have archers, that's the only defending of the backline you want to deal with. You don't want to have to deal with a 3rd layer with your trebuchets behind it. And I think, again, you're just negating so much cost that you could be investing into better cav units, more reserve infantry, or even more archers. And our number 1 slot, the crown of the worst units of Bretonnia, goes to the Pegasus Knights. Now, we've talked a lot about how each one of these units really has its own niche. Even though it's on this list, the Field Trebuchet has got a place. The Mounted Yeoman have a place. Even the Green Knight, everything else has got a place. Battle Pilgrims as well. Now, the Pegasi, or the Pegasus Knights, really just don't have a niche. You can really spend a lot better points somewhere else, or even on their better variants. On top of that, they were so good in Warhammer 1. If you took Mounted Pegasus Knights or if you took Royal Pegasus Knights, you really had a really strong air force. You had a goon squad that could swarm things and take things down with Low and Leonkar. But now it's just not that way. They have a lot of pathing issues. If you bring them into combat and try and pull them out of combat, you usually have one or two actual individual models that will stay down in combat because they get bogged down. And that results in your overall unit losing leadership. And if it loses leadership, it can lose stuff like its blessing and stuff like that. So when you lose those benefits, it makes the unit less effective. And with so many ways to tie down flying models nowadays, with Howling Warp Gale, Tempest, and Knight of Amantok, it just makes the Pegasus Knight that less effective. Now, in addition to that, they're 1,100 points. For 500 more points, you're better off spending those for the Royal Pegasus Knights, which give you a blessing, which is minus 20% to physical, I'm sorry, if 20% physical resist. In addition, you get immune to psychology, you get perfect vigor, you get magic damage, and increased stat line, and I believe it's AP, I can't recall 100%, but you do get anti-large as well, which you already have on the Pegasus Knights. So the Pegasus Knights just don't really fit. If you are trying to squeeze them in, then it doesn't make much sense, because if you're taking Pegasus Knights, they should really be the backbone of what you're trying to do with your build and your strategy. They don't really fit as a shoehorned single unit. So you should be taking two of these guys with Leonkar, and then at that point you might as well just take the Royal Pegasus Knights to make your Air Force that much tankier and that much more scary. In addition to that, or I guess scarier, in addition to that, they're just kind of lackluster. They just don't really get the amount of damage on the board for 1,100 points. You're, again, better off spending more points in your cavalry. And it's weird me talking about, oh, spend more points in cavalry the entire video. And these guys right here are flying cavalry. So it's like, what the hell am I talking about? But my point here is they're just too easy to focus down. They just don't really fit into the army as well. They really do win out on number one of the worst unit of Bretonnia. And that really sums things up here today, guys. I guess there is an honorable mention here for, I was going to put the Hippogriff Knights on this list, but I really kind of, after sitting down with Turin and Laxton Soothsayer, I really found that they had a lot of really good matchups. And the criteria for this list kind of boiled down to, okay, since the Bretonnian roster is so slim, what units just have the least amount of good matchups? That's how I'll really configure this list. And the Royal Hippogriff Knights, they do really well against almost all armored variants of any type of army. And they can really, really do well against even light troops because they have a lot of terror that they can bring to the table. Using them along with Leonkar, they make for a really, really devastating air force. So they push themselves maybe to number 6, but they're no longer in the top 5 worst units that they once were at the beginning of Total War Warhammer 2. But I hope you guys enjoyed this list here today. I'm on kind of a Bretonnia craze right now, so we'll be touching up on the lore and history of Bretonnia in the coming weeks. Also, we'll do I guess the flip side of this and talk about the 5 best units of Bretonnia, and all 5 of them will be the Grail Guardians. So guys, let me know below if there's any units you would have liked to have seen on this list, or any units you want to see on the best list. I'll put them into my consideration when I kind of spitball things with other people in the competitive realm. But as always, guys, thanks so much for watching here today. Have a great rest of your weekend, and take care.